morning. You are indeed in the right place, and you did pick up the right bulletin. For those of you who are, I won't say perfectionists, for those of you who pay attention to details, you will notice that your bulletin does not match the screen behind me. It's really okay. You're right where you're supposed to be, I assure you. Several of us are just returning from Unity Village, where we spent time at the Nehemiah retreat. So unlike what you might be picturing in your mind, us lounging by the pool, what pool? Taking a leisurely stroll through the rose garden. No, we spent a lot of time dusting, washing windows, and painting walls. Nehemiah is an opportunity for people to come together from all over the United States and to give of their time to restore, rebuild, and renew the grounds of Unity Village. And I was so delighted while I was there to hear stories about a certain man with a red jacket on today who helped restore the first wall. And to know that this place where I have found myself to be the right place has a long history of being a part of Nehemiah and a part of this love and this restoration of Unity Village. And so on Thursday night, as I returned home and decided I was going to sit down and start working on my lesson for Sunday, it was put on my heart to share with you today the story of Nehemiah. Because what I learned through my various times at Unity Village during the Nehemiah retreat is that the story of Nehemiah is our story. It is a call for us to be bold, to be courageous in restoring our consciousness, in restoring our very own state of peace. And so today, I want to take you on a trip far back in the land of Babylon to the children of Israel. At the time of Nehemiah, the children of Israel found themselves in captivity in Babylon. Now, for a long time, there had been many wars. People loved to attack the children of Israel. They liked to pick on those guys for some reason. And so during all of these wars, the holy city of Jerusalem, their holy city, the place most sacred to them, had been decimated. The gates had been burned to the ground, and the walls that once protected them were now rubble. And the children had been scattered throughout the territories and were living in a state of despair and despondency. There was one Jewish servant named Nehemiah. Now, Nehemiah was really had an important role in the king's court. He was the cupbearer. Now, the cupbearer had to be someone that you could really, really, really trust, because it was his job to sample everything, to taste everything before it passed into the lips of the king, to prevent the king from being poisoned. And so Nehemiah, each and every day, risked his life for this king and had within him the power to destroy the king if he was so influenced to do so. Nehemiah was a faithful Jew. And as he looked around him and saw the children of Israel, he saw how they had lost hope, how they had become discouraged and downtrodden, and it broke his heart. And he didn't know what to do. You see, their hands, like the song Daniel sang, had become empty. And so he did the only thing that he knew to do. He prayed. He prayed for an answer. He prayed to have the boldness and the courage to do something. And soon the answer came. Rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. He knew that by rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem stone by stone, that it would stand as a symbol of hope to the people, a symbol of faith, that indeed it was possible that God would once again restore them to their freedom. And so I am sure with all the courage he could muster, he approached the king of Babylon and pled his case. And I'm sure to the amazement of the court, to the other servants, and to Jews far and wide, the king said yes. In fact, the king was so moved by his love for his people, for his passion, for his boldness, for his courage, that he said, I'll even give you the supplies, and I'll provide you with an army to protect you and to protect the workers as they restore the walls of Jerusalem. And we read in Nehemiah 4:6, so we rebuilt the wall, and all the wall was joined together to half its height, for the people had a mind to work. The people had a mind to work. So to understand how the story of Nehemiah is our story, I want you to pause for a moment, and I want you to remember the last time you experienced peace. Just close your eyes. Think about that moment that you had a peace that passeth understanding. A peace that was unshakable. And now open your eyes. You see, metaphysically, Jerusalem represents a state of consciousness of peace. That peace that you just brought to mind. That peace that passes understanding. That peace that brings us joy, that energizes us, that helps us move forward boldly and courageously. But then what happened? I bet some of you are not in that state of peace right now. If you'd have seen me, 24 hours ago, I wasn't in that state of peace. What happened? You see, just as the children of Israel were held captive by the Babylons, we are held captive. We are held captive by our very own minds, our very own thinking. You see, it is our thoughts and our feelings about what's happening out here that disturbs our peace. And by the way, metaphysically, Babylon is a state of consciousness that is chaotic and confused. How many of you have gotten so caught up in the circumstances of your life that you feel like you're in the midst of chaos? How many times do you get confused about what to do because you're thinking 5,000 things? We create Babylon and we leave behind peace, all with our thinking. And then there's Nehemiah. You see, Nehemiah knew there was a better way. Nehemiah had a strong desire for that peace again. How many of you want to live in a state of peace? Yes. And we have within us the spirit of Nehemiah. We have within us this divine impulse. This impulse that is constantly calling us higher, better, to be more peaceful, to be more joyful, right there, waiting for us to turn within and to acknowledge it. Elizabeth Sand Turner was a unity teacher who specialized in the metaphysical interpretation of the Bible. And she interprets the story of Nehemiah. And she says that moment when Nehemiah was bold and courageous and he asked the king, and the king said yes, is proof that when our motive is right, God prepares the way. What I would say is that when we are in alignment with our true divine nature, we are unstoppable.
Yes.
Everything that we need, everything that we desire, the way is made clear for us. The moment that we step into alignment with who we really are. I think about my experience here. I've shared with a handful of people that when I came up here, this was an experiment. I wasn't going to stay. I had decided that I was just going to try it out for practice when I got here. But I was in alignment because before that, I had asked myself some very important questions. What's really important to me? Where do I want to be? What kind of ministry do I want to be a part of? And I had created this list with the help of my mentor and my friends and my wife about where we wanted to live, close to water. I was thinking ocean.
Rivers.
Yeah, lots of rivers, lots of lakes, the lake that everyone talks about. But I had created this list and I had put myself into alignment with that, and I prayed over that list and I looked over that list and I held myself in this place of knowing that the way would be prepared for me. And there was nothing easier than the weekend I was with you. For the first time, I think, in any interview process, I didn't get up that morning sick at my stomach, thinking I'd rather die than do this. You know? It was easy. It was grace-filled. It was enlivening. I was as fed that weekend as you were because I was in alignment. And that is the story of Nehemiah. That when we step into that place of our true identity, when we are willing to pray and ask for what we need, the path is made clear for us. Now, although the king said yes, and they had all the supplies they needed, and they had all the people they needed, it wasn't all easy peasy, smooth and easy. They had some folks that disturbed their peace. Do you have people in your life that disturb your peace? So, big surprise, they are not disturbing your peace. There is only one person in this room that has the power to disturb your peace. Guess who it is? That's right. You. You are the only person that can disturb your peace. Because we create our reality with our thoughts and our feelings. It's completely up to our interpretation as to whether we are disturbed or we are peaceful. And we're going to use the children of Israel and their peace disturbers to look at 3 ways that we disturb our own peace. So the first person that showed up on the scene to ridicule them and to criticize them was Sanballat the Horonite. So he represents unconscious error thoughts and fears. So he represents that part of us, those fears that we have that we don't even know we have. Those unconscious thoughts. I call it autopilot syndrome. It is that moment when someone comes to you and says, I need you to do X, Y, Z. And you automatically go, oh, sure, yes. True, I have 10,000 other things to do. I'm exhausted, wore out, and stressed out. But yes. I used to think I had an automatic response, like this. Every time there was a question, you know. We say yes automatically, out of this hidden fear that someone will be disappointed in us. Out of this hidden fear that someone will think that we're not as committed as we should be. We're not as dedicated as we should be. So yes, yes, yes. We also have an autopilot called no. It's when we're asked to do something, to step out of our comfort zone, and our first response is, no, I couldn't possibly do that. Because we have this fear that we're going to fail. We have this fear that people aren't going to like us if we tell them no. That people aren't going to like us, that we're not going to be able to do it, that we don't have what it takes. And so we run on autopilot. Think about all the ways that has disturbed your peace. It's hard to be peaceful when you're going against what you know you need the most. Our other peace disruptor is Tobiah, the Ammonite. The wild, uncultivated state of consciousness. So I call this squirrel syndrome. You're trucking along, you're doing your practice, and then, shiny object. New gizmo. Great show. Social invite. We get so distracted by the next new thing. So distracted. And every time we get distracted, we go off course. And every time we go off course, there is no peace. There's no peace. And our last peace disruptor is Goshen the Arabian, who represents unproductive thoughts and tendencies. You ever just sat around doing nothing for no good reason when you had like 50 things you needed to be doing? You could also call this the black hole syndrome. So anytime I enter a Walmart, if my wife is not with me, I fall into the black Walmart hole. She'll call me like 45 minutes later and go, honey, are you still in Walmart? Yeah. What are you doing? Looking at the lights. Going through the clearance rack. Do you need any of that? No. I came here for milk. That's right, milk. There's also the wormhole thinking, right? It's called Facebook, social media, where we have focused on this hole in the universe that takes us aimlessly around. And although we may be zoned out in the moment, that's not peace. That is not peace. Peace is the ability to breathe into the moment and to be present, fully, 100% present. And so how do we put down these peace disturbers? How do we find this peace? How do we protect the peace once we find it? The walls that Nehemiah built had once been a way to protect Jerusalem, a way to protect the city of peace. We too have a responsibility, a choice to protect our peace. Elizabeth Sand Turner says that the walls of Jerusalem represent us protecting our peace with spiritual thoughts. Remember how they built the walls? The people had a mind for it. When we have a mind that is focused on spiritual thoughts, when we have a mind that is focused on peace, we can't help but experience peace. So what kinds of spiritual thoughts? One of my favorite references to what our minds should be focused on comes from one of my favorite verses, Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. The story of Nehemiah is a reminder that we have the divine capacity for peace. And that peace is a choice. We choose peace with the thoughts we think. We choose peace with what we choose to focus on. Peace is a choice. And we have within us this divine capacity for zeal, this divine capacity to be bold, to be courageous, to ask for what we need, to say yes when we mean yes, to say no when we mean no, and to focus always on that which is true and perfect and beautiful and loving. We can choose peace. As I worked throughout the week at Nehemiah, I was struck that each of us had come there for the same reason. Because of our love for unity. Because of our love for unity principles and unity people. And that unity village was like Jerusalem to us. Our holy city. And as we rebuilt it, one paint stroke at a time, one window at a time, we were restored. Because there is peace in doing even the mundane with a consciousness of love. And so not only did we restore the grounds, I know that I personally was restored to a state of peace and to a state of love. But don't take my word for it. Dwayne is going to show you some pictures from Nehemiah. And our friends that were with us, I'm going to go around and I'm going to let them share. I gave them 1 minute to tell you how their experience at Nehemiah restored them. So I'm going to go around and have them stand up.
You want me to start the slide?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay, you can hear me. I went to the village to give back because I've been there before and I've loved it. But when I was there, I got more out of it. It wasn't me giving, it was me receiving, as always. I left there with zeal and enthusiasm and very, very thankful heart.
So Glenda left us, what day did you drive off, Thursday? She left us with the word restoration. And I said, well, there wasn't much rest, but there were a lot of rations. But for me, it was a pilgrimage to be there on that sacred land.
Only a minute. I don't know if I can do this in a minute.
Well, she was short, so you can take half.
You can have half my day.
For me, it reminded me of all the work we've been doing here, like restoring basically our faith and our spiritual home, and going through the things we've done, paying off our mortgage. We go back to there, and so much of it looks beautiful, and so much of it needs so much work. And so Fort Wayne always has a great showing there. There were 6 of us that were there, and here comes the commercial. So in end of April, beginning of May, there's another one coming up, and it's hard to put words to it, to tell, get yourself dirty and clean up and tear up stuff and put it back together out there, and it's just moving. So anyways, I can't explain it all in 1.5 minutes.
I've always been impressed with the rich history of the place. The forethought, just how they went ahead and created this huge campus of 1,200 acres, and the lakes and tower, and it demonstrates their faith and their beliefs. It demonstrates their discipline and the focus that they have. And going there reminds me of that, and working with like-minded people is just an incredible feeling. I see
we were surrounded by opportunities to have spiritual thoughts. Whether it was the daily word that was read to us each morning, or stepping into the foyer of the room that has all the affirmations, or being in the peace chapel and seeing the words, "Peace, be still." It was an opportunity for us to give back and to be restored to peace. And we are so grateful to have a community that supports us in that. Namaste.
Oh, wait, one more.
Oh, one more. Oh, I forgot all about Linda.
How can you forget me?
Because you were hiding in the back.
This is my first Nehemiah, but it's not going to be my last by any means. The peace, the love, the overwhelming spiritual feeling that you get on Unity Village is just amazing. And I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I will be back.
Thank you. And we have a short little movie clip.